A pleasant day to everyone. Welcome to my virtual classroom. I am Mark Rayo Frasco, and today I will do a report about the biblical aspects of economic life. Before I start my report, allow me to cite the references where I took some insightful ideas which would make my report more reliable and insightful. I have two resources or references with me. The first one is Georgia Hardness. She is an American theologist. She was educated at Harvard and Yale theological seminaries. For 12 years, she was a professor of applied theology at Garrett Biblical Institute. Now, the second reference that I have is Nathan McLellan. He is completing a PhD in Christian ethics, and he holds a master's degree in economics from Massey University and a master's degree in theology. He is an author and an economist at the New Zealand Treasury. Now, I will start my report with a question. What is economic life, or the economic order? Maybe you are wondering, what are these terms all about? We will know later on. According to Georgia Hardness, this is by no means so clear-cut in its meaning or so easy to define as is the family. While it is obviously not the same as man's spiritual life or moral ideals or intellectual achievement or the aesthetic appreciation, it spills over into the whole of existence, including these elements. It has to do basically with the material foundations of life. That is to say, with money, property, and wealth. Yet it is also concerned with human problems of work and vocation. If we limit the term economic to the traditional trilogy of the production, distribution, and consumption of material goods, it will not do to forget that in these processes, human values are very intimately at stake. It matters enormously not only what goods are produced, distributed, and consumed, but how this is done. Economic life in a competitive society raises problems of power versus insecurity. According to Nathan McLellan, the Christian scriptures present a very different understanding of the human person and society, and flowing from this, a different understanding of economic life than that offered by capitalism. Basically, Nathan McLellan believed that the very common factor that is moving the boat in this issue of economic life is the capitalism, the people being capitalist. Rather than an autonomous individual, the scriptures present the human person as embedded in a series of relationships with others, with God, with other persons, and with the rest of creation. For example, in the opening chapter of Genesis, we see humans communing with God, with one another, and also relating to the rest of creation. Owing to the relational orientation of the Christian scriptures, the biblical conception of freedom differs markedly to that of capitalism. Within the relational context, God has commanded humans to be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. That is from Genesis 1:28. Sometimes it is called as the cultural mandate. This command calls on humans to make something of the world in which God has placed them. So in other words, humans are called to be stewards, to take the gifts that have been entrusted to them or to us by God through the effort of work, to cultivate these gifts so that they become more productive. The vocational task to be fruitful and increase in number, to rule and subdue the earth, suggests an environment of plenitude. The creation account in Genesis suggests that provision has been made to meet human needs, albeit that the creation needs to be cultivated in order for these needs to be met. This still requires humans to make decisions about where to allocate resources in order to meet human needs and wants. In this sense, humans still face the reality of scarcity. However, this contrasts with capitalism's understanding of scarcity that contends no one has enough. A Christian vision for economic life must ultimately reject the notion that human person is comprised of unlimited wants that can never be fully satisfied. Instead, it embraces the notion that human fulfillment can be found in the relationship with others and in through Jesus Christ. Moreover, given that God has created a world in which there are enough resources to meet everyone's needs, that poverty still exists is a result of current institutions, policy settings, and human behavior. Economic institutions are intended to support the relational orientation of life in general, meaning economic life is subordinated to an overarching relational understanding of life. For when Jesus lays down the overarching moral principles of love God and love your neighbor, he is pointing to the priority of relational over financial wealth, for love is a quality of relationships. Capitalism enthrones an erroneous notion of freedom, and socialism an abstract notion of equality. What is fundamental to the Christian understanding of life is relatedness. Now, I will show you a table about capitalism and a Christian understanding for economic life. Now, in this table, we will differentiate how a capitalist person views the society or life in contrast with the Christian view of economic life. So let's try to look with the table. Now let's have a brief overview with the table, and I will not elaborate it more because it's self-explanatory. For the fundamental orientation to the world, for capitalism, it is scarcity, and for the Christian view, it is plenitude. For the assumption about the human person, capitalism believes that we are autonomous individual, and the Christian view believes that we are interdependent person. Capitalism believes that we are motivated by self-interest to fulfill unlimited wants, while the Christian view believes that we are motivated by self-interest and benevolence to fulfill the limited needs and wants of oneself and others. Capitalism believes that the human person finds fulfillment in material consumption and leisure, while the Christian view believes that the human person finds fulfillment in relationships with God, other persons, and the rest of creation. And for the virtues required to find human fulfillment, capitalism believes that the virtues are prudence and to some extent fortitude and justice. However, with the Christian view, it believes that the virtues needed are prudence, temperance, fortitude and justice, faith, hope, and love. For the assumption about the society, capitalism believes that the society is a collection of individuals who voluntarily agree to enter into a social contract with one another. However, the Christian view believes that a society is a creation reality. Humans are embedded with the societies. The human person cannot be understood apart from the society and vice versa. Capitalism believes that a society is a social, economic, and political institutions that are designed to maximize the consumption of goods and leisure, Maximizing economic growth becomes the overriding societal goal, while for the Christian view, societal institutions are designed to promote social, economic, and political goods that contribute to the enhanced relationships. For the societal values, capitalism believes freedom from others, while the Christian view believes freedom for others. Competition for capitalism, while for the Christian view, competition and cooperation. Capitalism believes in mobility and the global, while the Christian view is for the rootedness and the local. And capitalism for the material wealth, and the Christian view for the well-being. We come now to an issue with which many discussions of economic ethics begin, namely, the nature of a just economic order and the principles by which justice is to be judged. As we can see, the world is full of injustices by all forms, and by which also economic injustice is a part of. Now the question goes like this: what is economic justice then? We have left it to this point not because it is unimportant, but because the two great constituents of an economic society, property and work. It must be seen in relation to God before any true perspective is possible upon their relationships. Two cautions are in order as we move into this moot area, so you need to remember this too. The first is the need to recognize that in the tangled complexity of modern society, in which not only the divergent interests of capital and labor, but the pull of tradition, the uncertainties precipitated by a flood of new scientific discoveries, and the interlocking nature of the modern world. They are ever-present factors. Now, perfect justice is not to be expected. The second necessary caution is the need to recognize that no situation is hopeless. No situation, however impregnated with the meanness and man's inhumanity to man, is so bad that Christian effort to correct it is irrelevant. As the increase of love among persons is always a Christian obligation, so is the increase of justice. There are persons who have money enough, but not too much for their personal well-being, who have earned it honestly in work serviceable to God and humanity, and who not only acquire but use it with a Christian conscience, insensitiveness to human need. This recognition ought never to induce complacency, but it needs to be made in answer to the pessimistic view of the total injustice of human society. Finally, to the degree that we are fully Christians, that we are Catholic Christians, we shall do our utmost to see that all men, all women, and children of all races and in all lands are provided with the material foundations of healthful, wholesome living and good life. So that's it for my report. Thank you for listening and have a good day.